All right, let's take a walk outside. Let's take a walk outside. It's cold and snowing out here, but let's get a little fresh air. So, how do I start this? So, I'm delusional, right? Because I think that I am the reincarnation of Yeshua, which is the guy that is in the Bible as quote unquote Jesus. And I've always had a fascination with the individual and the person, Yeshua, or call him Jesus for that, right? Now, Jesus was a person just like you. Jesus said the things that he can do, you can do, and greater. And Jesus was someone that embodied Christ consciousness. I was brought up in the Church of Christ. And they never talked about Christ consciousness. And they were very strict. They believed that music was the devil, right? So there was a cappella music in church. And they never talked about Christ consciousness. Most Christians don't. They just know that Jesus came to die for their sins and they're going to have their reward in heaven. And they don't question the whole reason why there needs to be a sacrifice, why God needs anything from you, and why Jesus coming to take your place is righteous and makes sense. They don't question that. And a lot of the religions don't want you to question that. They're not built on questioning. They're not built on truth. They're built on belief. I'm an engineer, so I tend to look at things from a scientific standpoint, from a truth standpoint. Does it make sense? Is it factual? Can I prove it to myself? Can I replicate this? And that is also something that I took to heart with this whole Christ deal, consciousness deal. Is there some truth to us being spiritual beings, having a human experience? Is there no God? Because the God that's talked about and is talked about in a lot of these religions, that's a whole different story. Isn't a God that is one of love or forgiveness and things of that nature? But again, growing up, I wondered, like, why did Jesus cry? Why did he say, why did thou forsaken me? Right? If he's the one and only, the Son of God, he's God incarnate, then who would forsake him? Who did he pray to? And why did he cry? Why did he curse out the fig tree? And the only thing that he wrote, right, supposedly was in the sand, right? So I've always had a connection with that character. And when I started to question things, then I really started to realize what was going on in the Bible and how that connection is a connection that we all share. And when Jesus was like, why hast thou forsaken me? It was like he knew the things that he would have to go through in trying to awaken the people that were asleep. When he was talking about getting the beam out of your eye before you get the plank out of someone else's eye, he was talking about being able to see clearly, being awake in the matrix, if you will, and being able to see through the illusion of physicality and separation. When he says, I and the Father are one, he's talking about him being God and being one with God, just like you are. When he wrote in the sand, he wrote two circles. One circle like this and one circle like this. The circle like this represents people just going around in circles, not progressing. This circle represents the internal journey and getting into the core of who you are, your heart. Christ is a level of consciousness. It's a title that you can attain as well, just like Jesus Christ, your name, Christ. And that level of consciousness is like a frequency that you can tune into. And that frequency is tuned into internally through your heart. Not exactly through your mind, even though you can rationalize it with your mind. But the experience comes from your heart. It's almost like your second mind. You have your heart and your mind aligned. That's why a lot of the times they show Jesus, they show him with an open, flaming heart, right? And that ability exists within us all. Jesus was nobody special. He was a human just like you and me. Maybe he had more experience. Maybe he has more experience with awakening, just like I'm claiming to be Jesus or the reincarnation of Jesus. And reincarnation isn't taught in the Bible or anything like that, but we see it in nature. This is snow, this is winter, but this will be green when the spring comes. Life reemerges. And in the East, it's more talked about than in the West, but who's to say that the ancestors can't come back to experience life again? Of course, they don't want you to talk about that from a Christian standpoint because you only live once, and if you don't get this specific knowledge, don't confess, then you're going to go to hell forever from a God that supposedly loves you so much he gave his one and only son as a sacrifice in your place because of a whole bunch of convoluted stuff that doesn't make sense. So what would Jesus do in this reality? Well, for one, document and teach in his own words and show you the divinity that you have within you as an example. Because back in that day, people didn't read or write, or people didn't write like that, right? So a lot of his teachings were hijacked and manipulated by people that wanted control. And they've inserted a middleman between you and God when God is within you. A lot of the religions that are propagated now have these middlemen in place, and you can look at the world that is a result of these religions and how they treat each other, the wars, the people that have died, how they treat children, the abuse, molestation that goes on in the church, the history of that. And those are things that I've experienced coming up in the church and dealing with quote unquote Christians, right? And just like Jesus said back in the day, they don't know what they do, the same thing is in this current reality. Like they're asleep. And it's interesting how there's so much symbology about Jesus and awakening, and even looking at Matrix, one of my favorite movies. We're gonna go outside because it's cold. Matrix is one of my favorite movies. And in the Matrix, Jesus is like Neo, the one, right? He awakens in the Matrix and he broadcasts within the Matrix to help other people awaken. Same thing that's going on here, right? And it's interesting that people will have something to say about Jesus being black, first of all, or Jesus coming back and being black. Well, we got Black Captain America, and if Will Smith would have accepted the role of Jesus in the, not Jesus, but Neo in the Matrix, we would have had a black Neo as well. But these are things that we're going to be discussing as someone claiming to be Jesus, right? And I'm not a liar. You can ask my family, and they know that I claim to be Jesus, right? And Jesus had brothers and sisters, and people that knew him that didn't think that he was anything special, right? So it's like history repeats itself in a sense. And even in my life, and it's not about being perfect. Let's go ahead and get that out the way. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't know everything. I know that there's more that I don't know than I do know, right? So I'm learning in this journey as well. And there's a lot that I've learned, and I've shared that information through the alias Vikter Bang, which stands for victory over noise. Because there's a lot of noise that keeps us separated, that keeps us divided within this matrix. That's one of the things that they continue to do is divide and conquer and confuse. And it's bread and circus, distraction, ignorance, all of this stuff, because that keeps us divided and that keeps us separated, and that benefits those that want that control. So part of the journey is realizing who you are, knowing that you have divinity within you, just like Jesus. People will holler about Jesus as divine and this, that, and the other, but do they know that about themselves? Do they realize the divinity that they have within? Do you realize the divinity that you have within, and that Jesus is no different than you? Maybe he was a old soul, if you will, had more experience incarnating, been here before, but his level of consciousness is something that you can tune to as well. And it starts internally. The kingdom of God is within, not out here, not there, it's within you. And the kingdom of God can be accessible by you, right? Now, this is not something that I was taught because, again, in the church that I grew up on, just this vibration was considered sin, right? And it's crazy to think about. And now, Church of Christ is a small minority, but just Christians in general maybe allow music in the church and things of that nature. But that level of non-Christ talk goes around the board. And you're not taught that you can awaken and that you can become Christ yourself. We're just told that someone needs to come and be a representative for us because we're sinners. We're born sinners. Or some people believe that we come in and we're innocent until we know that we're sinners. It really doesn't. And I've heard it both ways, that we're born sinners. And this is all stuff that we're going to discuss. This is all stuff that we're going to challenge. And I just want to make sure, yeah, I'm claiming to be Jesus. You can look into my eyes and see if there's any deception there. Either I'm crazy and I'm not who I say I am, or I am. Either way, we're going to be talking about higher consciousness and the divinity within you. And it's going to be a bold thing to do, which is what Jesus would do, right? And earlier in my journey, I wouldn't have thought that I would be talking about this and having these conversations, but it's evolved into this. And it's part of my story now. It's part of my life. Because the interesting thing is, a lot of the things that I'm experiencing now, that I've done already, people have said it's not possible. I've awakened in this matrix, literally awakened the dream of life. And we tell ourselves these fairy tales or these nursery rhymes. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. So I've awakened in this dream. Jesus awakened in this dream. Other people have awakened in this dream. And they were trying to tell you the same thing, that you can awaken as well. This reality does not want an awake population because you can't control gods and goddesses, sovereign beings in this reality. You can't make them do the things that we're made to do and we allow to happen to us and to our children and families, right? So that does not happen with gods and goddesses. That can happen with people who are in need of being saved. And that makes you needing a savior. And when they control the image of the savior, the words of the savior, then they control you. And then they use the fear of hell as a means to keep you in line here. Because no one wants to burn forever. No one wants to be tormented forever. So you're going to stay in line. And you're going to believe whatever you're told unless you question. And question is something that is not, it's not something that really goes on in church. We're dictated, we're told these things. So coming back and claiming this for myself, for the purpose of clearing the story up. Because if I was that individual in that past lifetime, and it was a tough lifetime, right? And that story was hijacked and turned into something that's been used against my ancestors. And of course, I would come back and write the script and show something different and show a different possibility and challenge those that rewrote the story to show something different. I'm here now. I can speak on these things. I'm here in the flesh. And a lot of the heavy lifting has been done because I've been awake for about 10 years studying this matrix, studying the history of the things that are going on here. And for those that don't know me, you see a lot of the posts under the alias Vikter Bang, which stands for victory over noise. For one, it's claiming victory. You claiming victory. You're not a victim. We're not a victim. We've accepted the victim mentality, being victims of a lot of oppression on different levels and being victims of a vengeful and jealous God that's going to send us to hell. But we are the victors. So Victor is claiming victory for us all. And bang is to do with noise, is to do with the noise that keeps us from seeing clearly. It's like getting above the clouds. It's like being able to see above the turbulence that they keep us in to keep us fighting each other while the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I'm just a regular person. I'm working class. We're all working class if you're not ultra rich and these oligarchs. We're all working class. And they try to make it seem like there's a middle class and lower class and all of this, but we're all in the same boat. And I'm in that boat as well. The thing is, we don't have to stay in that boat. And once we decide to put our oars in the water and start to row in the same direction, who's going to stop us? I'm curious to see who's going to stop me. Who's going to be the opposition? Now, I will say I have faced opposition before spiritually. As I was elevating my consciousness, you begin to see things. You begin to realize that there are forces at hand that don't want this information out. And those forces will try to intimidate you. And they have tried to intimidate me. So some of the toughest battles have already been fought. So I'm dealing with a lot of sleep humans that have been programmed. And that's a lot easier than dealing with some of the entities and things that I've had to deal with that don't want this information out, because the rabbit hole goes very deep. And I haven't divulged a lot of the things that I've experienced and heard and seen for various reasons. But the idea is to put this out and get this out. And I want to do it in a movie sense, because the matrix is the physical world. So awakening in the matrix is realizing that you're a spiritual being having a human experience. This human experience happens within this matrix, within this physical world. I call it a light interactive fractal experience. This is a light matrix of light and sound that we're interacting with. And there's nothing wrong with this matrix, this nature, right? There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is the artificial layer that's put on top by those in power and in control, and how they use that to manipulate us and take advantage of us while we're here. And that's part of the game. And the game is to get you to waste your time at least, or to get you to go along with plans that don't have your best interests at heart. And the game is, we're given these false set of choices on multiple levels, as if these are options that empower us when really these options don't. And this is something that we're going to put out in the open. And the script is going to write itself. The set is already made. So from a movie standpoint, what is the story of Jesus coming back worth? What does that look like? We'll see, right? I've already got a reality show called The Truman Show, which is about an engineer that awakened in this matrix. So that's been going on for almost a decade. And part of the rationale behind doing that is to see what is the opposition. Because what I'm talking about makes sense both scientifically and spiritually, because spirituality is about truth. True science is about truth. There's dogma in science, just like there's dogma in religion. But in reality, there's no qualms, there's no beef between science and spirituality. Now, there's dogmatic science that doesn't want the individual to realize that they're spiritual beings, because you can't measure or weigh a spirit per se. And also, there's scientific manipulation that goes on as well. But when you really look through the illusions, through the dogma, through the ignorance that happens in science, in religion, it boils down to the individual. And it boils down to the responsibility of us to make this world a better place. Science, mainstream science, is funded by individuals that may not be concerned with bettering the planet or bettering the human condition. They may be concerned with manipulating data to get outcomes that they want for the people that are funding these studies. That happens in science. I've seen it. And just because you're a scientist or you're an engineer doesn't mean that you think clearly, because I've experienced engineers, been around engineers my adult life, right? I've been an engineer for 20 years, over 20 years. And I know engineers that believe Jesus is the one and only Son of God. And that same engineer will say data this, facts this, and all of this stuff. But when it comes to beliefs, that's where they get us, because that just bypasses logic, because logic doesn't have to exist in religion, in mainstream religion. But nature is logical. The universe is logical. All there is mathematical. That's why a lot of the math works, because of the consistency of this matrix, of this world, of this creation. God is an engineer and an artist. And that engineer and artist created this experience for it to experience itself through you, through me. And that is the secret. That is what they don't want you to know, that you are God, that everything is God. And if God is everything, then there's nothing that it's not, including you. So if they teach that something is not God, then God is not everything. There's something separate than God, then that is not the creator of everything there is. And we see the manipulation going on multiple levels, but who's talking about it? Who's talking through it? And who wants to expose it? So not many people, and I'm one of those people that's going to do it. And we'll see how far I get. It's been a lifetime in the making. And my card says angel, artist, engineer. So angel in the sense that God only makes angels, just like the sun only makes sun rays, right? So we're all angles or angels of light, of God, of source. We'll all come from the same source. Now, they don't want you to realize that, because that empowers you. And they don't want an empowered, they don't want empowered people. They want people to be diminished. They don't want people to realize their own power. And the power is in the people, right? And that's what we're talking about. Now, the angel part, God only makes angels. And the artist part, I'm an artist. And I left this out because during my journey, I've documented plenty that's online and put it on the servers of a lot of these large corporations, right? Through social media. And if you see my social media posts, you may think that I talk all the time and that I'm always yapping. I'm actually very quiet in real life. Not many people know me in real life, even my family. Like, they know that I've said I was Jesus, and they think that I'm crazy, right? Even my mom, named Mary, thinks that what I'm saying is nonsense, but she can't prove me wrong, right? Because to prove me wrong means she would have to look at the beliefs that she's been given and look at the history of the things that she's been taught. And a lot of people don't want to do that self-reflection, because at my best, I'm just a mirror that reflects the truth. And if I'm wrong, then no problem. I can be wrong. I have been wrong, and I will learn and adjust. But will you admit if you're wrong? Can you learn and adjust? And can you admit that maybe the things that you have been taught have been given to you by people that didn't have your best interests at heart, your spiritual liberation at heart? A lot of Black people are following teachings given to you by your oppressors, by people that enslave you, by people that did not want you spiritually liberated. They want you enslaved, both physically and mentally. How can someone that's doing these things to you in the physical want to help you in the spiritual? And even when you look at the Bible, because now we're able to break these things down, you can see the manipulation. You can see the teachings that predated it that were co-opted into the Bible. You can see the story. There's a history. There's a paper trail to it. And yeah, they try to cover it up, and yeah, they try to erase history, but it's still there. And a lot of it has been preserved through things like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the, things of that nature, to where we can see some of the things that were preserved by these people that knew they were trying to erase the history. And they still try to do it now, even from the digital standpoint, because a lot of the digital manipulation is going on. So there's a lot that's happening in this reality that we're going to need to filter through. And part of that discussion is bringing all this to the light. Let's bring it to the light. Let's have this discussion. Let's not be afraid to question things. And that's part of my journey, part of this journey. And it's a difficult journey. It's a difficult journey. There has been a lot of pain, a lot of transmuting of negative experiences and energy into something positive. And I still work at it. And I'm not the best at it. Some days I do good, some days I do bad. But the thing is, what I've learned is that, and I wrote a book called The 100-Degree Challenge, is I've learned that I'm not my emotions and I am not my feelings. I am the being that is experiencing emotions and feelings, and those come and go. So you're able to react consciously and not be a puppet of emotions and feelings and just react. They want you to just react to those stimulus, to just be a puppet, because if I know you're going to react a certain way, I can give you an input and get a certain output. So they keep you in fear. They keep you on lower levels of consciousness for that reason, because you're easier to control. Again, an awakened society, an aware society, a conscious society is not easy to control, which is why they don't want that, which is why they want you siloed into feeds, right? And these feeds are pretty much blinders that just feed you the information that's just going to waste your time and keep you inactive in this reality. And an inactive person just goes along with the flow. And the flow could be walking over a cliff or walking into a ditch or into a trap. And those of us that try to show the difference, there's a lot of resistance to that, because people have been walking on a certain path for a long time and they don't want to admit that they may be wrong. So angel, artist, engineer. The engineer is what I do on a day-to-day basis. An engineer is about problem solving. And I didn't know, I guess in my naivety, right, that not many people were trying to solve the problems in the world. They were just accepting them, and it is what it is. And there's nothing that we can do about it, as if we're powerless, as if we don't have the ability to make changes or to be part of the change. And I have an engineer's mind, so I tend to think about solutions, tend to think about ways to make things better. I'm a problem solver. That's what I do for a living. And the people that give me problems don't know the answers and how to solve them. So it's my job to find a solution, test that solution, and make sure that it's works. So I've, excuse me. So I've back engineered spirituality using myself. Part of my journey, and I've talked about this before, and it's all online, is I started from scratch because I saw the deception in all of the religions for the most part. And there is truth in a lot of the religions, but how many of them are activating the divinity within you, showing you that you are God, showing you that you are one with God? And I know God is a charged term, and when you say God, you can talk about the God of the Bible or the God of this religion or the God of that. And the God can be, most of the time, they give God human traits and human characteristics. And they say a he, or, he is jealous and he's this and he is that. He is vengeful. So I understand that's a charged term. So, but it's used a lot. If you look at the word all there is, or source, maybe that's a better term, but you're connected to all there is and connected to that source, right? That is who is seeing and hearing this. that is who is experiencing the thoughts come and go, the emotions come and go. In the book, The 100-Degree Challenge, it's about removing what you're not to reveal what's left, right? So these are things that Jesus would do if he came back. These are things that I have done. My quote unquote dead man switch is already out there. I've been awake in this matrix for 10 years and have put information out for that amount of time. So regardless of what happens to me, that's going to live on. And even that information is included in some of the data sets that these AIs are being trained on. So the story of an awakening in the Bible that was hijacked was a story of an awakening then. You have another story of awakening now that can be amplified because there's more data, there's more information. We can tell this story ourselves. We can record our own selves detailing what's going on and answer these questions and talk about this stuff in the open without any middleman. Because you don't need a middleman between you and source, you and God, because God is within you. God is you. God is everything, including you. So angel, artist, engineer, that's what Jesus is, was, and that's what we're going to do in this reality. And we're gonna do it as a movie. The reason why we're doing it as a movie is because most of y'all don't read, right? And you like superheroes, you like sci-fi and things of that nature. And Jesus was one of the few superheroes that billions of people on this planet are waiting on and agree that there was something special about this individual. What they don't realize is that individual was just a reflection of what is special about you. And we're going to bring light to that. We're going to show that. We're going to illuminate that more. And it's going to be a journey. And that's why we're going to record it. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm on this ride just like you are. But I know it's going to help and it's going to benefit more than it's going to hurt anything. Because we're talking about higher consciousness. We're talking about the divinity within you. We're talking about truth. And the truth doesn't fear any questioning. They fear this getting out. They fear Jesus coming back and shedding light on the deception that's been going on for thousands of years. They don't want that. A lot of the people in these religions are going to fight for the religions that are subjecting them to these false belief systems because of a fear of hell and because of pride in not wanting to admit that they've been wrong, they've been deceived, because it's easier to fool someone, as it said, than to convince them that they've been fooled. So it feels like it's me against the world. It feels like, and I know I'm not alone, but I'm just saying, as far as the person holding this camera, the person here in BMP Studios, it's just me. It's been that way for the majority of this journey. And if it's just me and the truth, then that's okay. If it's just me and source, then that's okay. But we can challenge the lies because the sun is going to shine and the lies are going to be exposed. The times that we're talking about now, they talk about revelation and apocalypse. It's revealing and uncovering. This truth is coming out. They say three things cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. The sun is going to come back out. The moon is going to come back out. And now, in this time of awakening, the truth is coming back out. And there are other people that are echoing this and saying this, maybe not on the level that I'm doing and maybe not being as bold as I am, but it's all part of the journey. And we're going to tell this story in a way that is going to be part of history. We're going to write a lot of the scripts that have been wrong because we weren't able to tell it ourselves for whatever reason. And it's being told in a lot of different ways. From an artistry standpoint, I'm an artist. These are songs that I've written during my journey, right? All of these are music lyrics, right? This whole thing is Jesus's writings of music, right? And when I say Jesus, I'm talking about the soul that incarnated as the individual Yeshua or Jesus. Now, some say that that soul was actually Michael, and I'm Michael in this lifetime, the angel Michael, right? That's why I say angel, artist, engineer. And I come from a family of soldiers, so I can relate to a soldier spirit, Michael's spirit. And Michael is a name that's in the Bible. Jesus is in the Bible. So I'm in that story, and we're telling a new story now. And we're including you in that story because now we can see that that divinity that was talked about then is accessible to us all. That Christ level of consciousness is accessible to us all, not just one person as we've been lied and told to. Even that one person then talked about the divinity that you have and the things that I can do, you can do, and greater. And it's about showing that example as well, showing that example and not being afraid to stand up against the lies, not being afraid to stand up against those that would say otherwise, because now you're going to have to prove it. Now you're going to have to show me. Now you're going to have to, we can pull out Occam's razor. What makes more sense? The thing about a lot of these religions is they were not based on logic. They got to the position they got to because they were using force and had crusades and had swords. Now the weapon that we use is truth, and they don't want that to come out. And I feel I've said enough, but we're going to show a lot of the story. I've been documenting my life since I was young. That's part of the story, just to show I was a regular person. I am a regular person. Jesus was a regular person, just like you. The only difference is he activated the divinity within him. You can activate the divinity within you. It's there. It's always been there. It's never left you. God has never left you. Emmanuel, God with us. Jesus, who is Michael, who is like God. These are names, right? But they also symbolize the creative force that is with us and hasn't left us. And we'll see how this translates. We'll see how it goes. There is more to the story because we're going to do this publicly. You know, the truth fears no question. We're going to do this in the light. So this is about, when I say in the light, let's turn the lights on as it's getting a little dark here because the sun is going down. We're doing this in the light, right? So we're putting this in the open. Like that's why I want to do a movie, because for a few different reasons. For one, we're able to package it in a way that's digestible. We're able to show the resistance and show the things in the light that they don't want to see, the conversations that they want to keep in the dark, the censorship that they want to have. We can show that in the light. We can show, hey, you don't want them to know that because of this. And now you see that, and now you can question them because they don't want to have these conversations in the open. They want this stuff to be hidden. And it's been hidden. A lot of these major religions and churches have hidden this information for a while, right? You look at the Roman Catholic Church. In Jesus' time, he stood up against the church and state who were teaching doctrines that didn't talk about the kingdom of heaven being within. That was his main thing, right? The divinity within you and that you're God. He was condemned for blaspheming and saying he was God. He didn't say you weren't God, right? I'm not saying that I'm anything special and that you don't have the same ability and access that I have. And people will want to say that I'm claiming something that you can't claim, and that's not true. But they use that against that person back then, right? Because they want to control the narrative, and they want this character to be totally unique and not something that you can attain. That way, there's the one and only, and you have to go through him to have salvation or liberation or whatever, heaven, however you want to frame that. That's not true. Heaven is an internal state, and heaven is within, right? The kingdom of God is within. And these are things we're gonna talk about. And we're gonna do it in a movie form, so because people don't read nowadays. Attention spans have been shortened for a reason. People don't even read the Bible. They have the Bible read to them. They have it interpreted to them and all of this stuff, because it is a convoluted story for a reason. And you can look at the history of the Bible and how it was put together. And it's not meant for clarity. So we have to clear it up. It's meant to be confusing. A lot of the times it wasn't accessible for you to read. It had to be read to you. And even now, you need somebody to interpret it for you when you don't need a middleman between you and the creative force within you. What else do I want to say? I think that's it for now. So it's going to be a journey, and we're going to do it in the public. And we talked about the movie, and this is a set. So unlike other movies, reality is stranger than fiction. Unlike other movies that have to create a situation, the situation that we're facing is already crazy enough. The matrix is already here. We're just going to rearrange it. So I don't have to create a set. The world is the set. The actors are already here. Some of them have been playing roles to keep you at a lower level of consciousness, and those actors are going to be exposed. There are people here, and a lot of the entertainers are just part of the bread and circus, part of the distraction. And this is what is fed to you to make you think that their lives are better, or that they're the stars and you're not the stars, or that they're what you should attain for. And a lot of them are just indulging in this materialistic life, indulging in material, showing off their wealth as if that buys happiness or makes them happy, or is the be all end all of life, as if they can take that wealth with them. But this is what we're shown, this is what we're given, this is what we're told as it's the pinnacle of existence, when that is not true, right? And they control those means. Only certain people are allowed to get to certain levels. And those people at those levels don't break script. They don't talk about the things that we talk about, that I talk about. So the reason why we're doing it from a movie standpoint and crowdfunding it from that standpoint is because will Hollywood support Jesus coming back? Will Hollywood want to tell the story of a soul coming back and talking about the divinity that you have within you, the God that's within you? Will Hollywood support Jesus coming back and writing the script that was hijacked and manipulated by the church? Probably not. But will you support it? That is the question, especially if it benefits you. It's going to be painful because it's going to expose an inconvenient truth that a lot of us have swallowed whole. We have been given false religions by our oppressors. And people of color, you know, our story, we didn't come here with the Bible. We didn't come here with the book. We actually have teachings that predate the Bible. One of the reasons why I wear this feather in my hat is to show Ma'at, or the 42 negative confessions, which is it's an ancient Egyptian teachings, right? That predate the Torah, that predate the Hebrew Bible, which you can see negative confessions saying, I have not done this, I have not done that, I have not killed, I have not committed adultery, I have not lied. And you can see how those things were manipulated into the Ten Commandments, right? Just as one example. And there's plenty of that history. And that's why I've, got this feather, and I've, painted feathers. And this is all, we're not going to get into the art side, but I am an artist. But yeah, that's what the feather represents. So the second birth, the spiritual birth or the rebirth is spiritual. Christians have been putting people in water, and water symbolizes, things as well from a spiritual standpoint. But just because you're baptized in water doesn't mean that you've changed. You have to change internally. You have to change your spirit. You have to change your actions. Jesus, back in the day, and it's made it into the Bible, talked about a spiritual rebirth. And the people he was talking to then thought he was talking about going back into the womb, right? No, it's a spiritual rebirth. And Ma'at is about how you move through life and how you interact with nature and how you treat yourself and other people. And your heart is weighed against a feather in this mythology, in this teaching, right? In the afterlife. And this is me showing that feather, showing that my heart is as light as a feather. And your heart can be as light as a feather as well. It may take work. It took work for me, right? The spiritual journey is spiritual work. There's shadow work. There is looking at the false beliefs, looking how you look at yourself and other people, looking at the world as a reflection of you, looking at you as a reflection of how you see yourself and how you see other people. We're all reflections. This is just like a holographic mirror, and we're reflecting things that we don't like, and we see that and we feel that, but we haven't been given the tools to change that reflection. It's like we're looking in the mirror and we're waiting for the mirror to change. We have to change first before the mirror changes. The mirror is only reflecting what we have. And our internal state is what manifests physically, and physically is what you see in the mirror. So you have to change internally to smile, for the mirror to smile. And that's the process. And it's work. There's responsibility. It's like the kid messing up his room and wanting someone to fix it. A lot of Christians have messed up the world, right? Or allowed the world to be messed up and want Jesus to come fix it. It doesn't work like that. Where is the lesson? Where is the responsibility? Where is the growth and learning from your mistakes? So that's why people aren't going to like me, because it's going to be self-responsibility. It's going to be awakening the divinity within you. It is work. It's not just someone is just going to save you, right? That's not the intent of it. And we have work to do, but we can do this, right? And the movie is going to show that, and it's going to show the interactions. And it needs to be done for us, by us, because the powers that be at the current moment are not going to want this to be out. So we're going to talk about it, and you're going to see it in different ways, musically, artistically, in various ways. I've had a camera in my hand since I could remember to document this, and that's been for a reason. So now we're just taking that documentation to the next level. So I appreciate y'all checking it out, and we're going to keep it moving. Peace.